I've been a Windows OS user all my life. Never really understood or in fact gotten the opportunity to understand the Apple ecosystem and why people were so crazy about it. I was always curious why Apple fans had this undying loyalty even though Apple was just putting out products that were extremely expensive and only had simple upgrades year to year. When I joined as an intern at my internship company, which is Kodomo. Shout out to Aditya for lending me or letting me have the new MacBook in the office. Most of our projects at Kodomo are designed, formed, discussed and coded on MacBooks. I'm currently working on this application called Rolljack. Link in the description below. You guys can go and take a look. It's a very comprehensive and inclusive application for classroom learning, workshops. This application was mainly made on Ruby on Rails, which is mostly coded in macOS. I was completely new to the OS and the chance came at me to really delve into the macOS ecosystem. So I thought, why not make a video that talks about the differences between the new macOS Big Sur and the Windows OS that we've been using for quite a while, and also of course review the MacBook Pro 2021 with the all-new M1 chip. I'm your host Thiru and this is Random Review Squad. Every alternate day I carry my laptop to work and it used to be a ThinkPad T480 but now it's a MacBook Pro 2021 with the M1 chip. This is the base version with 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, a 13.3-inch screen, True Tone Retina display, a beautiful touch bar, and a backlit Magic Keyboard and trackpad combo. It also has 2 USB-C ports and one 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, looking at this MacBook, I really have to agree with the enthusiasm that the design is truly something to marvel at. What exactly is it that I'm marveling at? Simple, this design that looks like it's just one seamless bar of metal. A laptop with one simple shiny metal logo and everything else is just one with the aesthetic. The ports, rubber feet, the hinge, and fan outlet all seem to be placed in a manner where it's seamless with the design. This MacBook Pro is definitely one to marvel at, especially in space gray. But of course, it's really nice to look at, but using it is different. Oftentimes the metal is too cold to the touch or too warm because it's just conducting the heat from its surroundings or from its internal components. It is still a metal body, it's going to conduct all the heat out through the body. And one simple thing that I hate the most, and I don't understand why with the MacBook, is the charger. You get constant static shocks from rubbing on the metal surface of the MacBook. I mean, you're not gonna rub it purposely, you're just gonna be using it, and when your palm rubs on it, you can get static shocks. And I realize it's actually because of the charger. The 65-watt Apple charger is not grounded properly. If I use my 65-watt Lenovo charger, or my ThinkPad charger, USB-C as well, I do not experience those static shocks at all. So there is something definitely wrong with the charger in terms of grounding. It's kind of like they made you get electrocuted like every few minutes just so that you'd stay up and do your work, which it kind of made me do. So it's got a premium weight and a dense feel to it, like it's a premium density, It's not empty, it's not too light, it's got the correct weight and it's still lightweight at the same time. It's a no-frills kind of laptop. You're not going to be connecting anything else other than your charger or headphone jack, which to be honest is difficult for me sometimes when I want to connect external keyboards or peripherals. Coming from a laptop that has almost all the ports, this was a jump in the opposite direction. Let's talk about the keyboard. I'm a programmer, so I spend the majority of my time interacting with the keyboard, and this keyboard is really one of the best in the market. They've done it right. ThinkPad is known to have one of the best keyboards, so for it to be able to match up to that was amazing. Although I did wish there was a bit more travel because typing fast just feels like you're hitting the bottom of the keyboard. But it's one of those keyboards that makes you want to sit down and type something. So that's great. You can get your work done if you love your keyboard, so I'm fine with that. It also has a touch bar, which is pretty cool, but I wish the text suggestions were on the lower half of the screen, or the touch bar was raised a little, because sometimes it's really hard to see what is on the touch bar without leaning forward. And there's no sort of feedback when it comes to clicking things on the touch bar, so you don't really know if you've pressed it without looking, you know. It replaces the function keys, and it's pretty smart when you're using different apps. So I actually like the touch bar, but if it was raised a little, like I said, it would be better. I've also used the MacBook while connecting it to other screens, but to be honest, the MacBook has the best color accuracy, and other screens just don't give or feel the same feeling, you know. The trackpad coupled with the OS is just a joy. The large trackpad really has its benefits, especially for those with bigger fingers, and doing gestures more prominently allows for a more fluid experience. Now, speaking about gestures, there's this 1 3-finger swipe that you can do, which kind of locks the window and the screen in place, and you can't move anywhere else without doing that 3-finger swipe down to release that window, which is weird. I'm not sure why that gesture is there and what it's for, but it's there, and it's happened to me several times, and you know, kind of breaks the flow. Now let's talk about the macOS. The macOS is really an efficient OS. I think even Mac users won't be able to appreciate the UI compared to someone coming from Windows. I mean, there are pros and cons to both. I'm not saying the Mac OS is the ultimate OS, but it does improve productivity. So the 3 things that really caught my eye with the OS is these 3 things: the package manager, the speed of the OS, and also the settings. First of all, let's talk about the speed. I think we all know the speed of the OS is directly related to the new M1 chip. It's truly a fast chip. It's the perfect example of when hardware is made for the software and software is made for the hardware. Like, it's connected, you know? It's so optimized and fast. Something Windows and even Androids have failed to achieve or can't achieve ever due to the vastness of its available devices. Sifting through apps, scrolling, and getting in and out of large applications like Miro, Figma, Notion, and even Chrome are a breeze. I mean, I don't really have prior experience to go on, so I can only compare it to my Gen 8 i5 processor ThinkPad. Although a bit more RAM would definitely help when I have a lot of tabs open for testing the application I'm working on locally, especially Chrome. Being a RAM monster, this would be really important if you're one of those that uses Chrome. I was able to play CSGO on the MacBook Pro with no issues, and it really handled the frames on higher settings well. Although game windows are a little weird on Mac, seems like the 8-core GPU is able to handle some amount of low to mid-level gaming. Now let's talk about the settings on the Mac. I've seen some really bad and scary, hard to navigate settings, but the Mac one is simple. In fact, I feel it's too simple and a little, I don't know, it's a little overcomplicated, but simple. You know that feeling? I've constantly found myself re-accepting and accepting warning messages to allow certain device usages. During Zoom meetings, sometimes you would have to go into the settings and allow the particular app to use your device. And then you still have to click on the message that allows for the device to be used. I mean, I'm all for security and I'm all for asking permission, but I think that's just too many times and too tedious, you know. Clean wiping of MacBook is also pretty complicated, and if you're passing on the MacBook or passing it down to someone else, removing your credentials is also pretty difficult. I mean, you could say it's nitpicking, but for some reason I'm still afraid of the macOS settings, and the settings shouldn't be something that Apple makes easy. It should give the user the full range of options that a computer should have. I guess that's a gripe that Windows users would have with the macOS, right? Also, why doesn't the delete button on the MacBook work like a delete button on the Windows? Like, I understand it's backspace, but like, it's still delete. Like, if I select a few images on the desktop or a few folders or whatever, you know, and then I hit delete, it should delete. It did not do that. You have to manually drag and drop or right click and click move to bin. Also, why am I not able to open up full screen tabs but also open up smaller screen tabs on full screen tabs so I can drag and drop items from either the big screen tab to the small screen one? If I were to full screen a Finder folder window, then I wouldn't be able to open up Chrome as a mini window on it to drag and drop an item from there to somewhere on the folder. I have to minimize both windows on the desktop, and then I can drag and drop between the two windows, which is a little weird, but you know, it's not as intuitive. I guess that's something Apple can work on as well. Now, the last thing that I would like to talk about is more programming related. Now, if you're one of those people that think MacBooks are not good for development, you're pretty wrong. Ruby on Rails is mainly written on macOS, and huge services like Twitch, Airbnb, Kickstarter, Fiverr were all written in Ruby on Rails. So don't look down on it. Now, the package manager is a huge deal on the macOS. Homebrew is the package manager I've installed, and it's so easy to quickly install packages into their various folders without messing around with paths and directories. It's always easy to keep track of the installed gems or modules that you have in your application, or just locally. But for those who are thinking of doing dev work on the M1 Macbook, do take note that many of the apps are not M1 chip optimized, so you'll have to make another separate terminal called Rosetta Terminal that acts as a pseudo Intel based terminal. This allows you to install all the packages that you need. Usually dev work and running services on the terminal locally would burn through quickly on most laptops, but the M1 Macbook was able to last through at least 8 hours of heavy programming and web browsing. But if you are going out to do it, or you're studying in school, I would suggest bringing your charger. I'm often able to run many browsers at once and multiple services on the terminal to carry out my daily dev work. Of course, the occasional YouTube. That's it, I guess. This whole experience was eye-opening for me. And if you were to ask whether I would stay in the Mac ecosystem, I would say it's really tempting. It's really tempting. It does seem hard to argue for a Windows laptop now, but computers like the ThinkPad X1 Carbon and Dell XPS are still similarly priced, but with better specs, more often than not. So I would really say it would come down to what you want to do on the laptop, or what I want to do on the laptop. In school, most of the software is only Windows compatible, and I've had friends over just to use my ThinkPad to do whatever work they need to do for that particular module. This is for those who are attending NTU Computer Science. And more often than not, the professors just ask you to go and find a Mac compatible version or an alternative on your MacBook. So yeah. If you are traveling or doing a lot of design work, then I would say get a MacBook, because it's light, it's powerful, it holds its charge pretty long, and you know, it's got a good display. Display is really good, keyboard is really good. Yeah. But you would have to carry around some adapters if you were gonna add, you know, some peripherals to it, unless you have a wireless mouse. I would never say one OS is better than the other. They have their pros and cons. It's just how you reason with your conscience and what you need now, and then come up with an argument and a debate in your mind to really decide what is best for you. So that's all, folks. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and smash that subscribe button. Leave your comments down in the comment section below if you have a MacBook Pro 2021 as well, or you know, you really have some gripes about the Mac OS or the Windows OS. Leave your comments down in the comment section below. Until next time, I'm your host Theo, and this is Random Review Squad.